Good morning. I'm standing in front of 770 Eastern Parkway, Chabad Lubavitch International Headquarters, which is also the yeshiva where I studied and received my rabbinic ordination. There was a story about someone who once came to visit the Rebbe, and the Rebbe's office is right behind me. That was his office where you see those windows on the first floor. His office is right there. And the Rebbe served the entire world Jewry from that office. And someone once came to visit the Rebbe at this building, and he was unimpressed with the building. He said, I expected something more grand, something more luxurious, something more beautiful. And the Rebbe said, you know, when you go into a skyscraper, a beautiful high-rise building, everything is full of beauty with most magnificent furniture and marble and beautiful stairwells and chandeliers. But if you go down to the boiler room, it's very simple and unattractive. The Rebbe said, this building is the boiler room for the world. This is the building that generates heat and warmth throughout the entire world. And indeed, thousands and thousands of Chabad emissaries who serve in synagogues and congregations around the world all studied and were inspired in this building by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Now, in this week's Torah portion, we read about the rebellion of Korach. And our rabbis point out that there's a connection between Korach and, believe it or not, a palm tree. Yes, Palm Beach Synagogue has palm trees all around it. There's a famous verse in the book of Psalms. We sing it many times in the synagogue. Tzadik atama yifrach, which means a tzaddik, a righteous person, shall blossom like a date palm tree. Ki erez balvanon yizgeh, like a cedar tree in Lebanon. And our rabbis point out that the three letters of the name of Korach, who rebelled against Moses' leadership, Kuf Reish Ches, are the last three letters of the words Tzadik Katamar Yifrach. Tzadik has a Kuf at the end, Katamar has a Reish, and Yifrach has a Ches at the end. So what's the connection between Korach being the last three letters of the words, a righteous man shall flourish like a date palm tree? The rabbis explain what's the difference between a date palm tree and a cedar tree. A date palm tree bears delicious fruit. A cedar tree does not have any fruit. But because it bears fruit, it's not as tall as the cedar tree because its fruit weighs it down, and the energy it takes to nurture and to produce the fruit doesn't allow it to grow as tall as the cedar tree. And therefore our rabbis say, Tzadik atama yifrach. A tzaddik has to be like a date palm tree. He must bear fruit. She must bear fruit. Ke'erez balbanan yizgeh. And only afterwards can the tzaddik strive for its own personal growth. And even if by producing fruit it will diminish some of its personal growth, it has to be willing to be first and foremost like a date palm tree. And this really encapsulates the message of the Rebbe. The Rebbe could have sat and studied Torah day and night and not involved himself in world Jewry's field of concerns and growth and spirituality. But the Rebbe understood that a true tzaddik is not just for personal growth like a cedar tree, but most importantly to bear fruit. And that was the Rebbe's most important message. The Rebbe's message to every Jew, not just his followers, but to every Jew, is that being a Jew means being a leader. As Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, that other leaders said about the Rebbe, that other leaders wanted to create followers, the Rebbe wanted to create leaders. And the Rebbe said that every single Jew has to carry Judaism to the next Jew. If you know something someone else doesn't know about Judaism, you must teach them, show them, and give them that experience. Because the Rebbe said, if you know the first two letters of the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph and Bet, and another Jew only knows the first letter, it's incumbent upon you to teach them the second letter, the letter Bet. And that's why the last letters of Tzadik atama yifrach, a cedar tree, a tzaddik is like a date palm tree, the last letters is Korach. Because Moses was all about shaping a Jewish nation, taking them from slavery to freedom, giving them the Torah at Mount Sinai, teaching them Torah, bringing them to the land of Israel. He was the ultimate date palm tree, the ultimate tzaddik. And he sacrificed his own personal growth to be a fruit-producing tree, because first and foremost you have to be fruit-producing, then you can grow like the cedar to greater and greater personal heights. Korach was not interested in being a date palm tree. He's the last letters of those three words. He's the farthest away from it. Why? because he was just about his personal stature and importance. He wanted power, he wanted authority, he wanted leadership, he wanted the crown of leadership for his own self-aggrandizement. He wanted to be like that cedar tree, not like the date palm tree. And the punishment of Korach and God's approval and God's confirmation of Moses as the ultimate model of leadership is that, like Moses and like the Rebbe in our generation, like every one of us, we have to date palm trees and produce good, sweet fruit to make the world a better place. You know, last week something remarkable happened. An Italian artist, you can't make this up, sold an invisible piece of art, a sculpture, for $18,000. Now, this art does not exist except in the imagination of the artist. And the artist said that. It only exists in my imagination. I'll tell you about it. It has to be installed indoors with unobstructed light. It has to be installed in a place that's 5 by 5 feet. But it only exists in my mind. You have to use your imagination to see it. I can't tell you anything more about it. And someone paid $18,000 for it. And they received a certificate of authentication from the artist that they purchased this piece of art. Unfortunately, this is what the world is coming to, that people are willing to buy nothing. It's like the story of the emperor has no clothes. But Judaism says that you can't just have things live in your imagination. Even if you're a legend in your own mind, even if you have great ideas, lofty ideas in your head, and they do exist in your mind, but if they don't create fruit, if they don't produce art, meaning that they don't make this world more beautiful, they don't enhance the world around you, then you're not like the date palm tree, you're simply like the cedar tree. And the story of Moses being chosen as the leader of the Jewish nation and Korach being punished in this Torah portion stands as an eternal lesson that we all have to emulate and strive to be like Moshe Rabbeinu or like the Rebbe, and wake up every day and say, how can I carry Judaism to another Jew or even to a non-Jew to make this world a more beautiful place? How can I take what I know to be true in my mind and my heart, what I believe as a Jew, and produce art, spiritual art, and enhance the beauty and the goodness of this world and make a visible change in my surroundings? Have a wonderful day.